Could Bullhead City, Arizona become the next Hollywood? The state agency is trying to make that happen. Kim Passoff is here now to explain. Kim?
Yeah, so new tax breaks in Arizona for film productions go into effect in January. And the state agency, Arizona Film and Digital Media, is pushing the entire state as a film destination, a cheaper option than neighboring California. Today, their focus, Bullhead City.
We have to identify who in the community has those important skills.
Ramsey Wharton, program manager of Arizona Film and Digital Media, held a public information session in Bullhead City on how to take part in future productions.
So our job is to really encourage and attract business and production work here to the state, and also help the communities prepare and be able to support the productions when they come to town.
Film crews need basic accommodations, which is an economic boost to the community.
So they need places to eat, places to stay. They might need construction materials for building sets, wardrobe, hair, makeup people. I mean, there's an endless supply of people that work in the entertainment industry.
But they often need much more, and the state of Arizona has a directory to help them find it. Everything from buildings that can be backdrops, medical service providers for set safety, even trash removal.
My partner sent me a link yesterday saying, hey, you might be interested in this. And I saw it and it's like, wow, this is right up my alley. So I really wanted to come and check it out.
Tim Webb owns a local music production studio.
Record like sounds of nature, trains. I love the trains that go through Kingman and through actually all along Route 66.
He plans on listing his business in the directory, saying it is a perfect way to get his product out.
My music can be licensed.
The goal is to make the city more attractive to production crews, which would generate revenue for the city and ultimately the state. So with new tax breaks coming and low or no permit film fees, could Bullhead City become the next Hollywood?
The sky is the limit for the entertainment industry, and it's really about how far the community and their representatives and government want to take it.
And to submit your name as an actor or extra or a location, prop, or other services to potential filmmakers, you can go to the Arizona directory. You do need to go directly to their website to fill out a form. You can find that link on our website, fox5vegas.com.